Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Just a reminder, please keep your eye on the chat. I'll let you know when you have about 2 minutes remaining.
Okay.
Thanks. And Neill is on.
Hi, Neill. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Oh, man. It is an honor to talk to you, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I apologize for the weird background. I had to pull over on a road trip home to talk to you.
Yeah, I've done the same thing. It's all good.
So I've been a fan of yours for quite some time now. And I've always thought, along with some other friends of mine, Neill should do a horror movie. Why is now the right time for you to do a horror movie?
You know, it's weird. I mean, I've always wanted to make something in the realm of horror, and I always wanted to do something. I found Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity really inspirational in the way that the filmmakers just went out and shot something. I thought that was cool. I thought it was like an awesome challenge as well. And for years, I've wanted to do that, and I just never really had the right time to do it. So Hollywood kind of hitting the brakes with the pandemic seemed like this. I'm either going to work on nothing, or this would be a good time to just go out and do something. And so it really, the movie, even though the film doesn't have any narrative element to do with the pandemic, the film really is the result of the pandemic. So I guess that's why it was the right time. It just was circumstantial.
Okay. Have you always been a big horror fan, or who are some of your influences when you were going into writing this?
I mean, it's weird. I definitely am more in science fiction and fantasy more than horror, even though I love horror. But I think sci-fi horror is specifically that's probably my favorite of everything. So something like Alien is like the holy grail. And so I think for this film, it was absolutely, unquestionably, it was Paranormal Activity and Blair Witch in terms of not really the narrative elements of the film, but like the fabric of the movie was born out of the same mentality. And then my other two favorites, it would be The Exorcist and The Shining. Yeah, you know, in terms of like all of the more campy stuff or the more gore related stuff, I think that's where I don't like horror as much as the other genres. It's much more particular with me in horror.
Okay. Are you a big believer of the supernatural? Did that kind of steer you towards this subject matter besides those other films?
I mean, I definitely believe in some weird shit, I would say. No, I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I think I definitely think that it was less about believing something is real and more about using the trope of demonic possession as an engine to kind of drive the story as something in horror. It just felt correct, especially for the budget level. I mean, that's the other thing that's cool is like you can do stuff in horror at a lower budget level that's still, you know, still fun to make.
Yeah. And you use volumetric capture for this, which is really cool looking, but it hasn't been seen in film a whole lot. Can you kind of walk through the process of how you use that and explain what it is to people who might not be familiar with it, so it's maybe not as jarring when they see it?
Well, you know, so volumetric capture is this incredibly new technology that is not used very much at all in the film industry yet, in a mainstream kind of way. Like it's used more in the background. Like you would use it for something like holographic billboards or something in Blade Runner. But this film attempts to make it actually, you know, 15 minutes of integral footage takes place using volumetric capture. So it's highly unusual in that sense. But the problem with it is because it's so new, there's a resolution issue with it where you have to choose between either the cameras being incredibly close to the subject, in which case the resolution would be pretty good, or the cameras are further away and you have enough room to kind of barely move, but the resolution drops off very quickly. So it's like, well, okay, I'm very interested in it on an aesthetic level. I love the way that it looks, and I coming from computer graphics, I would like to use this in a movie. But the only way I think I can use it is if I can write a story where the audience would accept the glitchy nature of it in the story. From a narrative perspective, could it be justified as some sort of prototype technology that a lab is building? And would the audience go on that ride? And that seemed like the only way that I could really use it in the way that I wanted to use it. So that was like an element that I had was I want to use volumetric capture. And then when I decided on this low budget horror, it was like, I'm going to use that and I'm going to try to write it into the story in a way that, it feels legitimate. And then because I'm riffing on paranormal activity and the horror trope of demonic possession, when you mix that idea with demonic possession, it becomes very interesting because it's like all of a sudden it's now you're talking about VR and demonic possession. And like, so does this thing exist in the person's mind or in their body, or like, where is it? And then the third element that I had in the back of my head was this idea of the Vatican acting nefariously with all of their money and buying up tech companies, like a modern take on what the Vatican may do if they were actually trying to fight demons. And the movie really is those elements like blended together.
Yeah. Was it a challenge for Carly and the cast to work with those cameras and those rigs? Or
yeah, it's just insane. I mean, imagine 260 cameras around the subjects, and we had our volume that we built. It looks like a cage. It's literally like a cage of scaffolding with cameras. And in motion capture, you may have like 40 or 50 cameras that are way further away in the stage, and you can just walk around like normal. You're just wearing your Lycra suit with your little infrared emitters on your suit. This is the cameras are like, it's 4 meters from one end to the other end, and they're also low above you, so you're in a cage. And because the resolution at that distance is so bad, we brought in these mobile smaller hemispheres of cameras that would be like the same radius as the inside of an oil drum, and that would be caked with cameras on the inside, but you could look between them through the scaffolding, and that would be wheeled closer to the actor's face. So they were completely constrained, and they had to act with one another, and I had to try to be able to watch the performances, which is kind of more like watching a stage play than anything, because you don't have any one camera that is your angle. You're going to shoot all of it later, like 8 months later. So it was definitely difficult, but there's also another element of difficulty, which is besides just actually performing, is there's a mechanical element to it where you have to figure out, like, if she covers 80 meters in the house, like in the lower level and the upper level, but the volume is 4 meters and only 3 meters are usable, then how many 3 meter times do you have to divide the set up to cover the inside of the house? So it's like, okay, walk forward. Okay, now go back. Now walk forward again. Now go back. Now walk forward, but this time make a right turn to go up the stairs. Okay, now bring in the wooden stairs. Okay, now go up the stairs. And it's like that kind of like puzzle assembly thing mixed with performance, like where the actors are actually performing, mixed with the inability to move around or look at anything correctly, is just like very taxing.
It sounds very maddening.
Yeah.
And but it also sounds like it'd be fun at the same time.
Yeah.
But,
well, the fun is when the visual effects start like actually coming together, because it's integrated, and like months down the line, that's pretty cool, because then you can start lighting it and you can start actually framing your camera angles, and like that's awesome.
After this experience, do you think you'll keep delving into horror and keep going forward in the horror genre? Do you think you want to take a little bit more of a break or do more of a sci-fi horror film next?
Well, I'm definitely doing a sci-fi film next, but I'd be more than happy to go back into horror multiple times, different forms of horror too.
I'd love to see your version of The Shining.
Yeah, The Shining is pretty amazing. Yeah. What's interesting with The Shining, Joseph Kosinski, who went on to become a feature director, one of the first things that he made in CG that's so cool was he made the inside of the hotel in CG, where he designed it so you could pick different lighting moods. So you can watch like where Jack was sitting at his typewriter, and you can select, or the video selects between different times of day. It's so cool. So you can watch the whole set change lighting.
That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
All right, I'm being told that's our time. I just wanted to say again, thank you so much for taking the moment with us today. It means a lot to me. I've been a big fan of yours forever, and I love the film. Congratulations, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thanks, Jeremy. It's awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.